We've had another very generous sponsor on the podcast. As you know, Carl and myself run this podcast strictly out of our own pockets and try to do our best. And we've had a guy step up, a gentleman by the name of Doug Beers. Doug Beers has a company called Pro Gift Cards. It also funds our other sponsor, PGC Basketball Academy, with some other key corporate donations that Doug gives out. He's a very generous guy. We're very thankful for him. If you need bulk gift cards, and when I say bulk gift cards, I've been to his office, from Tim Hortons to Earl's to Canadian Tire. It's across the board, Walmart, you name it. All right. For your company or any organization, Pro Gift Cards can get them to you at a discount. If you mention a Hoops Journey podcast, you'll get a special discount as well. So whether you're running like a golf tournament or some sort of event, reach out and he'll take care of you. If you Google Pro Gift Cards, they're also found on the Walmart Canada website under gift cards as the exclusive supplier for Walmart Canada gift cards. Support his company. He's a great guy, a big hoop head, and has really looked out for our podcast. Once again, that's Pro Gift Cards. Mention a Hoops Journey, and you can find yourself a little bit of a deal. Thank you to Doug Beers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Hoops Journey. We have episode 119. A gentleman who's been involved in the game for decades. Many different roles within our country, a youth sport coach for almost 20 years with McMaster, scouting and working with Canada basketball, and now has a pretty unique role and job with the CEBL,
not BC way, not an Alberta way, not
in terms of basketball operations, and continuing to help grow and build our game. As people who know and listen to the show, I had the opportunity to go to a few Bandits games this year and was overly impressed with the product. My son to the semifinal night and thought that was great. And really looking forward to chopping it up.
Sounds good on this end.
Go back to my own memories, thinking of McMaster and Mega and all the guys. But this is why I love doing this podcast. The last name says it all. Family rich in basketball as well. His son, who's still involved in the game. We have none other than Mr. Joe Raso with us today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Aaron. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And it's been a while back and forth, but it's. You're right in the thick of things with CEBL season, and I'm glad that and fortunate that you took the opportunity to sit down with us today. How are things for you these days, and how did you feel overall from your experience and perspective? Things went with the league, and what are you looking forward to with next season?
Well, things are good. It's kind of the basketball off season. That whole 2 weeks between the World Cup, and now to this point, the key part for us was CBL had a great year, and we've grown, and we're growing quickly. And in 5 years, you're looking at steps that you're taking, and you're looking at timelines. And our timelines have literally been anaerobic. You go 5 years, you're the first team to play in the bubble, you're the biggest pro league in the country, and all of a sudden we're drawing crowds of over 10,000 people. We've added 10 teams to the league. We're doing well in every area, and every team did better at the gate, and we did better in getting on TSN. So I think we're progressing, and that's the key. And I think we're at the point now where I feel like we're a major league organization, and basketball is stepping forward. I think that helps because we picked the game that's growing the fastest.
I love it. So many good points. And I agree. We are on a super, it is growing rapidly. And I can say from personal experience, being someone who lives in the Lower Mainland, lives in Vancouver, South Vancouver. And, when the Bandits were all the way in Abbotsford, it was a stretch for me, right? To get my son out there for a game, and no knock on Abbotsford. It's far, right? And so their move to Langley, and just sort of those trial and error things that I guess as a league, you're figuring out along the way. And the product on the court spoke for itself. I thought the talent was phenomenal, but just the atmosphere as well. My son had an absolute blast. You got the fire zooming out of the shot clock. I think the pace of the game and just the uniqueness with the play to the score makes for some really great things. And I think you make some good points. And I'd just like to personally say kudos to you guys and all the work and everybody that's putting work in to make it a great league. Because I think it's something Canada needs, and it's the word's thrown around too much, but it's become elite, which is cool. So congratulations. And I know you're not satisfied, but thanks for all the work that you've been putting into that.
Well, you're welcome. It's a journey. It's a legacy effect for me. So I am all in and was from the beginning. And I'm just thrilled that it's happened the way it is.
Yeah. And I think too, I got before we jump into your story a little more, just thinking about, I was there for that semifinal, like I said, and, we had Joel Anthony, who's been on the show. You got Jermaine Anderson, right? Javon Shepard, the guys that were heavily involved in the game, and they see value in it, right? And they're a step up in terms of the faces for basketball. And I think it's great to see them being involved. And that's important because it's not people that we don't know. It's people that are tangible, that have been there and played at the highest levels that are involved, which is also fantastic.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, let's get into it. Tell us about a young Joey R. Where did we grow up? What was life like for us? And as we started to become, a young, teenager, where did basketball play into your life?
Well, I'm a Hamilton guy, Hamilton born, Hamilton raised. I call it the center of the earth. And for me, it started as I didn't have any. It started with a coach, and I had the best coach in my entire life. My high school coach wasn't a teacher; he was a great athlete, but he was a great teacher, maybe the best teacher I ever had. And he got me to fall in love with the game, but he got me to see the game at a different level. I'd watch games with him, and he was my tutor and my mentor. And then my career goes from high school, you go to university, and you're a walk-on. And I got that call from the coach and said, sorry, you're cut. You're not making the team. And it was my high school coach who then convinced me that you didn't get cut. If you walk away from the game, you leave the game. It's up to you. He said, find a way to get into the game. Find a way to get into practice. And so I took the back door as a manager. And that back door turned into being center court live every night at practice, in coaches' meetings. I had got an education that was spectacular. Your jobs, your responsibility I was a manager who wanted to be a coach. I did all the duties of the manager, but my goal was I wanted to learn and wanted to do stuff. And before you know it, in a couple of years, you're running scout teams and you're starting to do stuff. And my role kind of evolved. And so my career as a coach always became greater than my career as a player. And learned how to be an assistant, learned how to be a young assistant, did that for a few years. And then eventually took stage and had my own basketball program in that I was given my old high school team, a team that I hadn't won since I'd left and hadn't won a game. But I was given the responsibility, and the principal that hired me said to me, what's your goal? And I said, I'm going to build a program. So myself and my former coach, we coached the JV team. We coached what we called midgets, the freshman team, and we coached the varsity team. And we built a program. We had some good, solid kids. And in 5 years, we ended up a school of 507, won the highest level AAA basketball championship in Ontario. We were good. We had 10 kids that all became university players. All 10 of them became coaches. A number of them are still coaching university and college basketball. So I was blessed and had some great kids. And back then in Ontario, to win the championship, you had to beat Rowan Barrett. You had to beat Michael Meeks. You had to beat Sherman Hamilton. It was, and so when I got to coach those guys, they constantly remind me that maybe we had an inside track on some of it, but that was my day. And that propelled me on to university again. And then I was a young guy, got to coach at McMaster. And in 18 years, we went to 12 national championships, tournaments, and we finished with a silver 4 years out of those 12. So I was a coach. I was a fortunate one. Most coaches try to coach their way home. I started at home and then got to be able to propel myself into some NBA scouting, more national team stuff. And then the opportunity came to go pro with the River Lions, with the intention. The owner of the River Lions, Richard Petco, is a visionary. He's a basketball fan that put his money where his mouth is. and started the CEBL. And he sold me day one that this was going to work. And so that's the journey in a quick summation. But part of it has been at the right location, meeting the right people. And, for me, I'm one of the lucky ones. And I could say that basketball has taken me to every continent in the world. And so I've been able to use the game, and the game hasn't used me. And I'm really, really happy and fortunate. And it's been a great journey and just a great ride.
It's awesome. As we go back and think about it, what was it about basketball at that young age, the high school years, that drew you to it? Was the camaraderie? I mean, you mentioned a mentor and coach early on in your life that looked out for you and kind of that you connected with. But what else was it about the game that made it special for you? Did you play any other sports?
I was an inner city kid, like a son of two immigrants. Yep. I played football, and I love football, and I loved high school football. And, I thought that would be my route that I would go. But it was part of the geography. I live, an hour from Buffalo. And back then with rabbit ears, I could watch the Buffalo Braves, or I could watch, we called the big three back then, Bonaventure with Bob Lanier. Calvin Murphy at Niagara. It was the glory days. And
wow, there's some names right there. Yes. Wow.
And so all of a sudden you're the kid that maybe you're a little different. I wasn't the hockey guy, but so maybe I would then we grew up and we used to consider ourselves the freaks who didn't play hockey. We'd have to go find gyms to play basketball, church basements, whatever it was. There was a group of us that loved the game. And so you had to search it out. But being close in proximity and catching, the Buffalo news and the highlights kind of was my first introduction to the game. And it was and the nice thing was, back then it was personal. It was mine.
Yeah, I really like that analogy. It was personal and it was mine. I've never really thought of it like that. And there is something unique about basketball too, right? Is like you can watch it by yourself or with your buddies, or you watch it solo, and then you can also work on it by yourself. I really like that. That's good stuff. Look at you all poetic on us here. Wow. Oh, early.
No. I'll tell you what, what reminds me the most about being basketball as a kid. And you go to the park and you play wherever you found a hoop, there's people playing. Like I'll go around now and I'll drive, and at the only park that I can guarantee you that there's going to be kids in the park doing what we did as basketball players are skateboard parks. I love it. I fall in love with I don't know how to skate. I've never been on a skateboard. I'd kill myself. But what I admire about skateboard parks, I don't see any adults. I see kids attempting things, falling down, other skaters teaching other kids how to do stuff. They got their phones out, they're videotaping, they're doing stuff. It was what basketball was. It was trial and error. And then you got into games. Once a game opened up, you got into it. I think it's the closest thing that I look at now that reminds me of what my basketball journey was.
Almost a little bit of purity. And how does that make you feel? I mean, the game's going to evolve. Things are going to evolve. Technology is involved. Lots of stuff. But when you talk about the reflection you're talking about, I have the same feelings and emotions towards the game as well. I remember playgrounds, I luckily had a flat driveway too, right? So how does that make you feel about where the game's come? Is there goods and bads and in-betweens for you?
Yeah, you know what? The good to me is I work as an advanced scout, and I'm at a lot of Raptor games. I think what we have in basketball is we have the most inclusive sport that exists. And it's our goal as basketball and Basketball Canada and as coaches to keep it inclusive. So we've got to minimize the fluff costs. We have to make it so that everybody can participate. There are some reservations. Like I thought high school, I am such a high school basketball fan. And I know that there's been an involvement into prep schools. And I think there's room for both. But I think the prep school still has to give that experience that you got in high school. Like, I think there's a huge value of a player learning how to be the man. The great thing about university sport was everybody who's on your team should have been the best player from their school. And that's a skill that a lot of players now don't have because at a very young age, they become role players. And we need, I think it's great, the explosion of it.
Mhm.
To me, I love, if a prep school is a true school, then I've got all the support in the world for it because they're getting great teaching. But it's that experience of being out of school. It's that experience of putting the school's name on your jersey where thousands of people are going to come and watch you. It's not the name of just a program. You're playing for something other than just yourself. You've got pressure on you that's not just self-created, but there's pressure of being there. So, there's some things that you see that you would like to see change a little bit, or, some straightened out a little bit. But the involvement of the game, we've taken advantage of the fact that mom and dad have all not played organized basketball, but have all shot a hoop somewhere. And that part is growing. The growth of the game, it's owned by everybody. And I'm amazed when, you go to a Raptor game and there's a lineup for 20 minutes before the game just to get the super fan Knob's autograph. That's what basketball is in this country. So, I'm seeing some great things happen, and I think we're seeing a lot of better things happen than not seeing things happen. But there's some things I'd like to see cleaned up a little bit.
We've had another very generous sponsor on the podcast. As you know, Carl and myself run this podcast strictly out of our own pockets and try to do our best. And we've had a guy step up, a gentleman by the name of Doug Beers. Doug Beers has a company called Pro Gift Cards. It also funds our other sponsor, PGC Basketball Academy, with some other key corporate donations that Doug gives out. He's a very generous guy. We're very thankful for him. If you need bulk gift cards, and when I say bulk gift cards, I've been to his office, from Tim Hortons to Earl's to Canadian Tire, it's across the board, Walmart, you name it, all right? For your company or any organization, Pro Gift Cards can get them to you at a discount. If you mention a Hoops Journey podcast, you'll get a special discount as well. So whether you're running like a golf tournament or some sort of event, reach out and he'll take care of you. If you Google Pro Gift Cards, they're also found on the Walmart Canada website under gift cards as the exclusive supplier for Walmart Canada gift cards. Support his company. He's a great guy, a big hoop head, and has really looked out for our podcast. Once again, that's Pro Gift Cards. Mention a Hoops Journey, and you can find yourself a little bit of a deal. Thank you to Doug Beers. Man, I love it. It's fantastic. I agree. I mean, from a high school perspective as well, we tell our kids too, one thing is like, someone got cut for you to be here. We had X amount of kids. Like, it's an honor for you to be on this team, right? So I think I'm in line with your thinking there. And your reflections on the game is fantastic. And I know, again, another great analogy. I never thought of that. Like, everyone's mom and dad now has probably shot a hoop, and you're correct. Pre-generations, maybe that wasn't the case, right? And now we're in a place where they've all at least been exposed to it. Man, whew, all right.
Yeah, but the scary part is when you get mom and dad think they know all about hoops.
Yeah. That's a whole different podcast, Coach. Yeah. No, that is true. So in those years, right, I'm assuming that when you were manager, you're talking about McMaster, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in those years, you go through the difficult part of, and everyone on 119 episodes in, everyone's had a different journey and how they've gotten to where they are through the game, correct? Right. And, getting cut and being one of those people who didn't get an opportunity to play at the post-secondary, but still wanted to be involved. What did you do in terms of, you talked about like just taking all the notes and soaking it all in? Was it just the mentor coach who said to you, you can be a coach, or were you already kind of seeing yourself in that? Like, or did it take that moment for you to go,
yeah,
oh, you know what? He's actually correct. Like, I can do something with this.
Yeah. I always saw myself going into teaching. And then all of a sudden I started motivating myself did I go into teaching because I wanted to teach, or did I go into teaching because I wanted to coach? And I think they both were equal, but it was my high school coach who said to me, are you going to quit the game? And that's when it hit home, because in his eyes, the game was bigger than just playing. The game was coaching. The game was being an official. The game was being a minor official. The game had everything. Like, this is the game you love. Find a way to get in it. And his advice was get on the court. And as a manager, and with a little bit of skills, getting on the court gave you playing time every night. Getting on the court did a little bit of everything. There was some duties, but man, what a great place to learn, because not only you were part of the team with the players because they were your age, but you were also part of the team with the coaching staff. And you had to learn how to separate what you heard here and what you heard here, because you had to get both people involved. To me, that was the best part, is if you like it, find a way to stay with it. And the game allows us so many stuff. And finally, even on the officiating part now, I think finally we're seeing that our officials will get better once we start recruiting players who played and players who think, okay, I can offer something to the game. But like in basketball, good teams recruited, good universities got good players because coaches just don't make good players. You got to have good players. I think we can do the same with officiating. And I think now in the CBL, having more minor officials do stuff, all of a sudden now we've had more officials get to world championships, to Olympic games, because a domestic league now exists. The ripple effect has been great. So if you like the game, find a way to stay with it. That's the only advice I can give anyone.
That's awesome. Those officials that have been involved in the CBL, is that just and they get to go to, is that kind of just because it's a resume builder and they just getting a different opportunity and it's professional level and that just elevates them that much more?
Yeah, no, I think what happened is, I think Canada's always had good officials, but what we didn't have, and what hurt them when it came to a lot of major assignments, was people could always say, yeah, but you guys don't have a professional domestic league. You're missing that. And once we started having a professional domestic league, a referee can't be shut out now, because they're not only just university officials at the highest level in Canada. Now you're a professional CEBL official. And, we're watching our officials working games at the World Cup, working gold medal games at the Olympics. We, as a league, you feel really good, because not only is our league improved, but that's part of the league. And I think we're filling a void for Canada basketball now, where they can promote these officials saying, no, you got to give our people an honest look, and they're good. So I think that's helped.
Love that. Yeah. As we go back and you talk about those years where you're coaching back at the high school level and building the program and working hard and getting it to a championship level, and before the opportunity to get to McMaster happens as a full-time head coach, what are you leaning on? How does someone in your kind of era learn and grow as a coach? Obviously, being a manager, the coaching staff year round, you're taking mental and physical notes. In a time where for us nowadays, we can hop on YouTube, we can fly to Vegas and see, 12 men's and women's Division I coaches over a weekend. But in that time, it was just a different way to learn. Tell us a little bit about that. It always intrigues me. And I think it's cool too, because I think not that there isn't a sharing going on. I'm an open book. I mentioned my colleagues are open books, but it seems like in that era, there was a lot of just everyone working together. Yeah, we're going to compete our asses off and I'm going to come at you, but we're going to learn and grow together as coaches too. So just take us back to that and how you learned and started to develop your craft.
Well, the lucky part, being the manager, was you learn there, but being an assistant coach, I was an assistant coach for Dave Arsenault as
2 years.
Yeah, and Dave ended up eventually going from this great defensive coach. He ended up going to Iowa and started the Grinnell program there, where they were scoring 150 points in a game. And then Barry Phillips, who I worked for, was a great technician and incredibly organized and an exceptional people person. So it gave me a little bit of enough of a background. And I went to clinics and even as a head coach, there never was a year as a head coach that I didn't go to at least 2 clinics. And I would go to high school practices. I would see how some of the great high school coaches were doing it. Learning was huge to me. So when I went to the high school program I had, and the principal said, listen, how are you going to do this? I went back to everything. To me was back to my teaching, whole, part, whole. Teach the whole, teach the part, then go back and teach the whole again. Like a math class, teach the whole section, break it down in parts, slower the student, bigger the parts, better the student, smaller the parts, and you just go back to the whole. But I decided then, from watching the great coaches that I saw, and again, being closer to Buffalo and getting games and stuff, that there was curriculum. And what happened is you needed to build the team under one coach. The varsity coach had to be in charge. And in our case, we coached all three teams. So it gave us 4 years to build the curriculum. It was like math. If the curriculum doesn't build, then there's no way you're taking calculus unless you had the blocks. But what happened in high school sport was the JV coach is trying to win a JV championship, and he's teaching one thing, and all of a sudden it gets to the varsity level, and they're teaching it differently. But if it was all taught properly, and you think in a school, that's where the curriculum base should start. It should be from the top down. How do we teach everything? That, in being a teacher first, it gave me a huge advantage. Teaching basketball or coaching basketball like I would as a program director in a specific academic is the kind of way we taught it. So teaching was huge. Commitment was huge. Practices were huge. Like the year we'd won the Officer Championship, I had 10 kids on the team, and we had one day where all 10 kids weren't at practice. And part of it was kids were hurt and kids were sick, but kids never missed practice. Practice was the most important thing that we had. If you're going to miss, if you're hurt, you're going to miss a game, that's one thing. Don't miss practice. And we made practice so important. And it really helped build the culture, and parents and kids bought in. I'd give you a great story. I coached a professional football player for the Ticats at the time. He was retired and he was a great athlete. His son was my best player. His son went on to be, maybe had the greatest high school coaching record in women's high school basketball, Rich Wasilowski. And his one day of practice, Rich was my star player. He could shoot lights out. And Rich is a sophomore, and he's just not working hard enough. And I got upset with him. And his dad, because they lived outside the town, his dad would pick him up every night at practice. And so he's not working hard enough. And I just said, okay, Rich, you're out. I threw him out of practice. And he got changed, got upset, huffed and puffed and whatever, and left. And he looked at his dad, and his dad looked at him and said, you got thrown out of practice, not me. Get in the car. His dad sat there and watched the rest of practice. And that, to me, from a coach and a parent relationship, I was thinking, wow, did I just get affirmation from him as a parent that what we're doing is right, and bought in 100%. And I'm thinking, okay, that's the support you needed. And that really, really helped as a coach, having the parents understanding what you're doing and them buying in.
I'm not going to say more about that topic. I think it's an interesting. I was raised the same too. I remember going home and complaining about teachers and coaches, and my dad would look me in the face, "Go talk to them. What do you want me to do?" Right? And so, it's definitely lost a little bit of that. The opportunity to get to McMaster comes out along, and I think this is so unique because we've had people like Dave Crook who end up coming back to Winnipeg but have to go to small town to kind of get their career going. Was there ever a moment where you're like, is this for real? Is this all like, is someone pranking me? Or it's just it seems like a series of events. And hey, credit to you. You worked hard. You developed your career. You built your resume. They wouldn't have hired you if they didn't think you were the right candidate. But it is a pretty unique story in terms of just being a hometown Hamilton guy. Hey?
Yeah, no, timing is everything, and there's no question. And you got to respect that. And you got to be fortunate with it. The year after we won the Officer Championship, the idea that the head coach Barry Phillips was thinking, I might step down in a year or two. Were you interested in coming back as an assistant? And maybe, and I did, and they gave me an opportunity to think, okay, do I want to do this full time? And then he decided that he was stepping up to an assistant AD role. And the opportunity came. And I have to, I'm 32 years old at the time. I've got two young kids, a third on the way. And I'm thinking, man, this university, is this the way to go? Because teaching was a lot more comfortable and less risk.
100%.
I've got to tell you something about Hamilton. And I was teaching for the Hamilton Catholic Board, which is a great board, but very sports. They were very supportive of sports. They loved the idea that I was coaching. And I talked to a director of education at the time. Imagine back then, the director of education was worried about a 32-year-old guy and a superintendent. And they literally said, don't do anything. Give us a few days. And they came back with this innovative idea of being seconded to the university. Teach a period a day at the high school. You're going to get seconded because the high school and the university was literally less than a kilometer away. And we're going to protect your family, and we're going to protect you and your pension and everything else. We're going to do it a little. And they felt by doing that, that this would help them get more coaches more serious about coaching, more teachers serious about coaching. They looked out for me, but they also felt this was good. This was good to say one of our high school coaches has now become a head coach at a university. So I was very fortunate. I was at the right time. And in the words of the director at the time, a guy named Jerry Ponigbar, who was the nicest man to me, he was, don't let your ego get in front of your brain. Let's figure this thing out. And I got a chance to mention that to his son the other day in the conversation, but it worked out perfectly. So one of the advantages, and I got to tell you, Aaron, that I felt I had over every other coach in at that time was CIS or U Sports as now. Imagine I was seconded, so my mortgage is being paid by my job where I started as a teacher, and wins and losses weren't paying my mortgage. I had so much less pressure to succeed based on 3-year, 4-year, 5-year contracts. Like I knew that if things didn't work out, I had a job. And that itself, that roadmap made teaching, just made the whole program so much better. And back then I decided I was going to build a program built on, we had great kids especially from the Hamilton area. We were going to try to keep the best kids in Hamilton and not lose them to division. We're just, students graduate every 4 years, the community doesn't. And we were a community-based team with huge crowds, great, involvement, great follow. And we got kids, and all of a sudden, the best kid in town all showed up at our games. Every game, they were there. Like kids wanted to play for us, and it became a badge of honor. And then we kind of recruited and got a little bit better. So timing was good. Like I said, location was great for me, but you have to take advantage of it.
Yeah. I just think, I love hearing that story because I think in the school system, and you're talking about you have a passion for the high school game, and I recognize my privilege being at a private school. We're not, it's not 40 grand to go to our school. We have a lot of middle class people, but there are some advantages with coaching and how we get taken care of. And I wish I would see it more, and not just in athletics. Any teacher that wants to be involved extracurricular and give up their personal time, I feel like there just needs to be more support for those people, and people like those admin that were in place for you to recognize, hey, we've got a good thing here. Let's not screw this all up and let's make it work. And then that just gives you that much more confidence about, wow, these people believe in me. It makes you a better coach, going to make you a better dad, going to make you a better teacher, husband, whatever it is. And then it sets a model for others that go, hey, well, if I put some time in, maybe I can, have that too, right? And I think we are lacking that a little bit. And I wish some of our unions and things had a little bit more kind of say in those things and took care of people that were willing to go above and beyond to say. And that's not to say the teachers don't, but I think those that are involved in things outside, and as you know, Coach, this is where the kids learn, right? It's outside the school setting where they really learn life.
Yeah, no question. I've always really said, if I had my music teacher was part of the Philharmonic Orchestra in our town, how lucky am I?
Yeah. Right. Right. Like,
Absolutely.
this isn't like Joe, the trumpet teacher who charges on the side. It's like this person's an elite level, musician, right? Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And as you think about all those, those seasons you touched on, I mean, not getting to winning that final national championship, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's the memories and all the relationships that you've built. And I think about, at least in my era of, being a 95 high school grad to 2001, kind of the guys that I saw go through MAC, guys that I know that have played for your program. What are some moments that stand out, or does it, when you think and had the opportunity to kind of like go back and reflect on everything that happened for you and what you built? What were the things that came to you, your heart and your soul?
Well, the wins and losses are great, and you put every face that you ever coached around that record, and it was a record because of the players. Getting to the nationals on a consistent basis, we set a standard. We got there, like I said, 12 out of 18 years.
And can we pause? Let's time out.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how hard that is, right? People. Let's take Carleton out of the picture. Just to get there, it's 8 teams. It's 8 teams. It's not, and it's a grind in terms of within your own conference. So 12 out of 18 years, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal stuff, but I'll let you keep going.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it wasn't. It was a tough conference. And that was one of the reasons we got there, because we had to get through great schools, but it was actually the glory days too. We had TV every Saturday. There was a game of the week in the OUA West, and we could, and there was CHCH TV kind of went national, and you didn't even realize it. But winning those games, winning conference championships, getting you there. The one thing that you look back and, like I said, yeah, we'd all want to win gold, but man, I got a chance to recruit players that I want to live with, and the relationships. I always said to somebody, I think I led the youth sports in weddings attended. We had just a great group of guys that were really close knit. When you get asked to be the godfather of a player's kid and you have a relationship like we still have, and the base of the guys are still tight. That's a part of who we were as a group, but also it was a part of the situation. I was at a very good academic institution. I couldn't get everybody in. So you had to get basketball players in who wanted to get better. And you knew you were going to get at the end of it, like you were going to get players when they graduated. They're going to maybe not be playing basketball. A lot of them went on to play pros, but I had more PhDs and MDs than I had professional basketball players. And that is kind of where you hang your hat on. But the other part of it is the amount of them that went on to coach at high levels. When you look at your tree and you're thinking, okay, I'm part of this tree, but you look around and that part of it is as enjoyable now looking back as any win and losses.
Yeah, that's great reflection. And I think the cool part and the unique thing that I've touched on already once is like, once you got your program established and maybe branched outside of the community, it seems, without you of saying it directly, that if you brought someone in from outside the Hamilton area, they had to recognize that, hey, this is a community team and we're going to be ingrained in this community. And I think that that's very cool as well, is that the pride that you have for Hamilton and how you took that approach. And like I said, I'm assuming right now, you haven't said it directly, but if someone was coming from out of town, it was like, hey, this is what we do and this is how we do things, and we're Hamilton first, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, and you know what? And it was part of the recruiting of the guys you recruited. And I got to tell you, like when you recruit a player on Seniors Day, I had some guys who started their first game on Seniors Day.
Yeah.
But also I could say that I had those same guys never cheated me out of a practice. Like the culture was there. We started building it with Hamilton guys, but then, it ends when you get a a Ben Cates or a Doug Doyle, guys that went on to have great careers. And Ben is now the assistant GM of a CEBL team. When you got some of those guys in, they just took the level of play to a different. They were the same guys. They just happened to be living in a different town. And, you kind of looked at those guys and you said, okay, but the culture had to be built somewhere. Yeah. And then other people just took it to a different level.
Love it. When did you get a first call from Canada? When was your first opportunity to be involved?
This is a great story because in my first year, we wild carded. We got a team. We got into the Nationals, and we got into the tournament, and we're playing a strong Brandon team. Jerry Hemmings had it cooking. It was Victoria. Then after Victoria came Brandon, and we were the wild card, and we got a game and we beat them. And then we went on in the semifinals and we win a buzzer beater. And before you know it, we're at the national championship. And we're playing St. FX in Halifax. And there are 10,000 people in the arena, and 7 are from Mac cheering for us. And
come on.
Yes. And it was, people didn't expect us to get the wild card. And we work our way, and we lose in a very hard-fought game. And the ex-fans rushed the floor. Some of them I went to school with, back in the day. Their fans rushed the floor, and we lose to X. Well, that night, we book a meal for our fans at the time, and there was more than 7. And our team, we have a end-of-season meal. Well, it ends up that X booked the same restaurant. And so you got the 2 teams in the national championship celebrating their seasons in the same restaurant. And I knew Steve Konchowski a little bit. And we thought, if you're going to compete that hard, you might as well share bread. And it turned into a heck of a night. An awkward situation turned into a memorable evening. And Steve and I became friends instantly. And once he got the head coaching job, he was looking for a young guy that could challenge him a little bit. And brought me aboard, and we've been friends ever since. And that kind of, one of the best things that can happen to a head coach is have the opportunity to become an assistant coach, because now you have to learn how to teach what somebody else wants. So it's not about yours anymore. It's not your ownership, how you do it. You got to take what your head coach wants and you got to sell it. And you got to do a great job of it. It may not be exactly how you would do it, but you have to be great at it. And my 4 years with the national team as an assistant was a great, great learning experience.
In case you didn't know, our second sponsor, ATO Basketball, aka ATO B-Ball, located directly at the Langley Event Center in British Columbia. This place has everything you need. I swear, if you walk in and you're a hoop head, there's nothing you won't be able to find. Sale items, Jordan, Adidas, Puma, you name it. The brands are all there. Shoes, jerseys, retro, current, Vancouver Bandits. You can even get every basketball you name. Shout out to our boy Jeff at ATO B-Ball for willing to be a sponsor to us. Go check them out. Check the store, mention us, and who knows, you might find yourself lucky. Thanks to ATO B-Ball. That's crazy. I love that. Before we continue to talk about that, did you realize that first year, whoa, that was a crazy run? Or did you think, making the national final, no big deal. It doesn't really take that much. Look what happened this year.
No, you stay humble right off the bat. But, I came in, there was a lot of controversy early in the year because there was a couple players that, really good varsity, a really good player, just didn't like the direction I was going to take the team. And he went on to he was such a good athlete that he went on to play varsity volleyball. He was an athlete that could have been like an all-conference player in both sports. And so we had some adversity, but it was my captain, was a 5th-year guy that bought in. Guy Jeff Zauner, who went on to coach St. Mike's, won himself a number of officer championship. Turned out to be a great coach and a great teacher. He was all in on me, and he owned the locker room. And with that, everybody, he was like, I was so fortunate that I had him. And I had another Jack Vanderpool, who was a 6'9" RoboCop at the time. Like, Jack was the best rebounder in the country. And, Jack had the Moses Malone. He would take 6 shots, get 5 offensive rebounds, and eventually score. But man, I had some guys, and they all bought in. Some great freshmen. Titus Chandler went on to be a Moser winner, an athlete of the year, was a freshman.
Legend. Was he?
He was a freshman, yeah. And he came in. So it was my second year. Titus came in, but we had a bunch of guys. But it was Jeff Zauner who, like, I had the locker room from day one because he had my back.
It's awesome. Titus Chandler, man, that's a name right there. That guy could flat out play ball. Holy smokes! Wow. I love it. And then McMaster wraps up. What's the reflection after that? Obviously, you still want to stay in the game, and you've had some really unique, cool opportunities, right? Like being a pre-scout for Team Canada and going and checking out teams. And how did you sort of bounce back or figure out the next step for yourself as a coach and someone involved? Obviously, your son too stayed involved with the game, which has got to be pretty special for you as well.
Yeah, you know what? I was very fortunate, and it was very difficult at the time because my son was playing for me. Mm-hmm. And, I wanted to be a dad and watch his career and see how it would go. And I didn't want my direction of what was happening to me affect him. But ultimately, he decided to transfer, and he transferred to Carleton and got to be in the backcourt and graduated as a captain. I was there for 2 years, and he was a captain with Phil and Tommy Scrub. And nice. I think the 3 of them averaged, they were shooting the ball about 49% from the 3. And they've become, and then it turned around where Victor goes on and is coaching, where Tom and Phil go on playing. And he coached at Carleton for a year and then came on and took over as the youngest FIBA GM head coach in the River Lions, and has been there for 5 years and probably is the winningest coach in the CEBL. And then watching him coach Phil or watching him play against Tommy now is great. He hit the jackpot. He got to go and learn under the greatest mind in Canadian basketball history in Dave Smart and reap the benefits. I always joked to him. I said, like, you got the benefit of being around 2 lunatics, So
I love it.
His education was great as a player and as a coach, and I think he's reaped the benefits of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's pretty cool too. I think it's a great story, and just sort of to, obviously he's just growing up being around the game, but for him to still have the love and passion for it and to take it that level, it's got to be pretty fun for you to watch, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what, Aaron? The only advice I give, I get a lot of parents tell me about where the kids should be going to school, and I said, listen, where you go to school, if you've got a choice of picking someplace, it should always be based on the coach. Like, go to the best coach you can find. Go to the best teacher you can find. The wins and losses will come, but you need, it's all about, and in coaching right now, if I gave somebody the same advice, I said, go to the best place you can learn. It's like if I was going to do a PhD, I wanted to go find the best professor. I want to find the best coaches to learn from, because that's where you're going to get your knowledge. So, I always tell parents, because parents have the choice right now. You see it. Kids, loyalty is a thing that's spelled with a small L nowadays. And kids are moving around way too often. And I think parents are missing the boat. It's about the coaching. And and so I think they can help themselves if they follow that.
Well, and just understanding too, especially in Canada, 5 years is a damn long time. If you're stepping onto a campus as a turning 18 or turning 19-year-old, and you have 23, 4, 5-year-olds and at the 4th and 5th year, there's a big difference in every aspect of life. And if you just stay the course and trust and learn, you never know what can happen. I agree. Yeah, I agree. You ready to do some fun questions and we'll get you on your way? Did you read your email?
I didn't.
Oh, I love it. Perfect. Okay. He just looked at the Zoom link. That's it.
Okay.
He's the busy man. Okay.
No, I apologize, and let's see.
No, I love it. This is great. Let's see what happens. Yeah. All right. You've got the best seat in the house for a concert. Whatever venue you think is great too. And the artist can be dead or alive. You could have seen them or not. Doesn't matter. If you had a choice, give us a couple of artists who you're going to go see.
Well, I'm always going to go see Bruce Springsteen because I just always entertained by it.
Can I tell you a sad story?
Okay.
Okay. So my mom, who's passed away, her favorite was Bruce, like the boss. We bought her the live 4 cassette. She rocked it in the house every day, all day, right? So, the boss is my guy, and I've always wanted to go. I'm a Cubs fan, so I've threatened to go to Wrigley. And then he's supposed to be here in a couple weeks. And it was my birthday last week. And my wife surprised me and got me tickets. Okay. I almost fell off my chair. Well, the next day he canceled because he's having health issues. So he's canceled his tour. So I don't know if there may be a chance that he might never tour again here.
Well, yeah. And my wife and I are close. We're about 4 hours from Pittsburgh. And we try to get down there for a baseball game every season. We just love the city. So our plan was to go down to watch a Pirates game, which people might think is completely bizarre. But Bruce was in town. We were going to get Springsteen tickets. And that was on the same tour he canceled, I think 2-3 weeks ago. So we were on the same situation. But yeah, I think Bruce, I'm a huge Killers fan. Got to see them in a very, very small venue. And actually, a former football player was the doorman at this place. He recognized me and VIP'd us, and we were unbelievably taken care of.
Love it. I love to hear it. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. And your wife's looking at you like, okay, maybe it was worth it. You not being home all this time. We got front row to the Killers. Yeah. There's something to be said for a smaller venue too. Hey, sometimes the bigger ones are great, but a nice, small, intimate venue with, good sound it's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Who have been some of the most important people in your life?
Oh man, my parents, I wake up every day the son of 2 immigrants who worked hard and did nothing but support me. My dad couldn't believe I could make a living wearing running shoes, and didn't know a thing about basketball, but did nothing but support me, and only gave me one word of advice to ever tell my players, and that is never be on time, just always be early. Can't get in trouble being early. And that's the only advice in coaching my dad ever gave me, and I shared it with every team I've coached.
Love it. That's amazing. Okay. How do you feel is a very Canadian question. Obviously you're longer in the tooth, a little bit of European heritage here. So you might even be offended by this question, but how do you feel about ketchup on macaroni?
No, I pasta is sacred. I don't mess around with it. No. As soon as you put, I could do, no. You can give me macaroni. You can give me macaroni and cheese, and I'll deal with it. But you can't do any. No.
He could barely even put the words together. He's so disappointed in that question, ladies and gentlemen. Teaching at a Catholic private school, you always got to find the good Italians, and you never know what you can get as a little comes home in the Tupperware for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We were the guys with the oily bags at school because the sandwich went through. You can't even put ketchup on a hot dog in Wrigley Field. Come on, no.
So I got 3 buddies. I got 3 buddies in Chicago, and I told them every time I have a hot dog, I send a video of me putting ketchup on it just to annoy them, right? And I said, if they can show me a video of them singing the Canadian anthem word for word with no script, I'll never have ketchup on a hot dog again. But they have yet to do it. So, but I didn't have one in Wrigley. I did not. No, you're right. I wasn't ready for that. So let's go with this. You're coaching. You get to take 5 players. Now you could pick your favorite players growing up, some you've mentioned watching on the TV with rabbit ears, or, some favorites that you've coached, doesn't matter. But 5 guys or girls, doesn't matter. You're going to the blacktop though. So, or, play to 15 or 21, call your own, and you're on the sideline. What 5 players are you taking with you?
Well, the first one I'm taking is Steve Nash. I always tell people, as good as people talk about Steve, they're way off. He's a whole lot better. And as a player and as a person, he's my Mount Rushmore, and the guy that I've been around and look at. And I don't know if I look at players that I've always admired and stuff like that. Oscar Robertson was my first. I don't know if he was anywhere near the best. I always felt Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the most underrated great player of all time.
That's fair. Yep.
I'll take Larry Bird any day, anytime.
Yes.
And if I'm going to take a modern player, there's so many of them that you look at and you think of Kobe. But I got to tell you, the one guy that I feel is undervalued and often too much ridiculed is Russell Westbrook. Just because I don't think Russell Westbrook ever cheats you on any night. I don't think Russell Westbrook, as a fan, if you're going to go watch him play, he may not knock down the shot. He may not do any of that stuff. But I'm telling you, he is, if I watch his career, and I think he's been on great teams, he's been on bad teams, he doesn't cheat you out of a fan. I would agree. Take KD over him as a player, but I'm going to say I got lots of respect, and I think I wouldn't mind throwing that out there.
I like that. I think 2 things. One, on the blacktop here, you've got enough talent out there. You need that guy like Russell who's going to show up. He'll guard. He'll rebound. He'll do everything else maybe that the other guys maybe don't feel how or have the energy to do. Secondly, I literally saw a clip this morning, and it was said, the title was, "People will never, share this clip of Russell." And it's him in OKC. Carmelo's on the team. They're down 2 in a game, and he literally chases down 3 offensive rebounds in the same possession, and then Melo hits a 3 to win the game. It's he's literally going nuts, running around this court coach. I was like, oh my God. And it's true. We do dwell on all the negatives, but I like that. That's a good remix. Well played, sir. Well played. Not just a pretty face. All right. If you had a choice between books or movies, what would you choose?
Movies.
Okay. Give us some all-timers. What's one that you wouldn't, or go for it. Man,
there's so many that you'd go for, your time and your era. The other day I got caught watching, well, I'm not saying my favorite movie. You talk to we'll get it. It's funny. It stole 2 hours, took 2 hours of my life because I saw it 5 times. It was 12 Angry Men. As bad, as crazy as that sounds, you just caught the beginning of it, and it just sucked you in. And I know every line and every character and everybody. I watched for 12 hours. You can't go past Shawshank and not stop.
Amen.
And the same with Goodfellas. Without practicing and rehearsing this, I'm just going to throw those 2 right at you at any time. And then the trilogy of the 2 Godfather movies, you can't, just going back to feel.
Am I some sort of comedian? Do I amuse you? Come on, Goodfellas. Wow, Shawshank. Oof. Now we're talking, baby. I love it. It's bringing the heat. All right, 2 more questions for you. You are about to sit down and watch one of those movies, maybe Goodfellas, but you're like, I'm going to quickly make a run to the store, feeling a little munchy, and you're going to go and pick a bag of chips. What bag of chips are you grabbing?
I always grab hot. The hot,
just
barbecue or anything that's flaming, I am taking hot. Wow. As a young kid, we used to have bacon hickory, but I'm a barbecue to anything jalapeno, anything hot. It slows me down, just slows me down a little bit, because my goal is to get to the bottom of the bag.
That's true. It's so true. Chips are bad. But then you dust the bag off and your tongue's all numb and your lips. But hey, it was probably worth it because you got to watch Goodfellas. Yeah. Just use the other hand for the remote so the cheese or whatever isn't all over the remote. Coach, this has been awesome and a pleasure. Last question for you. Who would you like to see on a hoops journey? The only thing is, just like Coach K gave me your contact info, you've got to let me know who this person is, and you're the connection. So who's out there? They've got a great story to share, and you think would be a good guest to have on our podcast?
Well, you got to have Dave Smart on there. And Dave and Jay, to me, Jay Triano, are...
We had Big Jay.
Yeah, two friends. Great teachers, great coaches. But Dave, to me, we talk about people that are undervalued. The man has done things that nobody, like, you can't say never. I can say never here. Nobody could ever do what he's done. And the relationship, and completely, like, and I think misunderstood in many ways. People just don't. A great, great teacher. And, I'd love to have a conversation with Dave in a room and with Ken Shields in the room. And, you talk about two guys that were legendary, and you would see so many things that were in common between the two. If I'm talking about coaching basketball in Canada, those two guys would definitely come up.
I love it. Well, we did have the pleasure of having Ken, and we've had Jay. So Mr. Smart, I mean, obviously, he's, to me, the GOAT. I agree. And you're right. You can't say those things, but no one will accomplish what he did. And I agree. I had the opportunity one year. Carleton came out to the UVic tournament. I came over to visit Kevin Hansen. My brother was on the island, and we went to the coach's social after, and I had the opportunity to sit with him for a few hours, and we shared a beer and chatted, and I really enjoyed the conversation. So I know podcasts probably wouldn't be his most ideal thing, but I feel like I could dig into my toolbox and get him to share a few things. What do you think?
You know what? I think so. And I think, like, now him and like I said, every coach should be an assistant. The fact that he's an assistant at Texas Tech, I think this is an incredible story.
Isn't it?
I think talk about, you're the best coach in the history of basketball in Canada, and you are going someplace to get better. Pretty impressive.
I don't have any words. You're absolutely correct. Okay, well, the pressure's on you now. You have to do it for us. Sound good?
I will do my end, and I will help. You're welcome.
Attaboy.
That would be great. I want to listen to that one.
Awesome. Well, listen, Coach, 119 episodes in, as I look back in my career as a player and stuff, you're right there. You guys battling St. FX in the semi, and, a really challenging game, and some guys I know that have played for you. So this was an honor and a privilege, selfishly, to be able to talk with you and to connect with you. Continued success with the CEBL. Thank you for all you've done for the game and our country and continue to do. And much love and health and happiness to you and your family. Any last thoughts or reflections before we let you go?
It's a brand new season for everybody. I am looking forward to watching basketball. There's no place I'd rather be in the gym. And I think, and from high school basketball to a college game to a pro game, people got to get out, just get out and be entertained. Because people are working hard out there. Get out and watch them play, watch your local teams play, go and support your local teams, your high school teams as much as anything else. So if anything, it's a new season, and everybody just keep getting ready to have some fun.
Love it. As our good friend Russell Crowe said, are you not entertained? Episode 119 with an absolute Canadian legend. Thank you to our sponsors. Everybody go watch Goodfellas this weekend. DM me and send me what you thought, because it is an absolute classic. And we'll see you on the next episode.